guys, welcome back to another episode of the Whiskey Diaries. My name is Macallan. We're here at Death and Taxes and we're going to be talking about best whiskies that you can buy for Father's Day or as a present or it's a great gifts. These whiskies they're a little bit subjective. I personally believe that these are outstanding whiskies. The distillers are all very well known and they just don't make a bad whiskey. Now we're going to start with the Lagavulin Distillers Edition. I'm pretty sure we reviewed this one in one of the videos. It's a great whiskey under $200. It's a little bit more on the high-end market. It's like a little bit more like a pricey whiskey, but it's a great whiskey to have or a great whiskey to give away as a present. Now it's a double maturation whiskey, so they have American oak and then the rest is aged in Pedro Jimenez casks. So a total of 12 years. This one is 16 years. Bottled, matured, distilled in 2002 and bottled in 2018. And it's quite smoky. This is going to be our smoky whiskey as a gift. So this comes from Islay, great distillery, and it's like the taste of the whiskey in itself is kind of like dark chocolate, smoky dark chocolate, and it's delicious, absolutely delicious. That's the bottle there. There we go. That's the first of our whiskey. The second one is. We have done a lot of reviews on Macallan, and I personally believe that this is basically the Rolls Royce of whiskies. They just don't make a bad whiskey. It is delicious, and this one is a double cask, double maturation. Now, the double cask, some people will believe that is, in this case, it will be a sherry cask and then an American oak or ex-bourbon cask. In this case, it's actually two casks that sherry has been in it. One is European oak and the other one is American oak. But the American oak cask has had sherry in it, not American bourbon. So it's kind of like a double maturation on sherry casks, but because the woods are different, it gives a different flavor to the whiskey. 40% ABV, 12-year-old. This is a great whiskey and it sells for under $100 as well. So it's actually really well priced and it's delicious. You can't go wrong with this whiskey. That's the bottle there. There we go. Now the next one is an Irish whiskey. We have done a general review in Irish whiskey. We have mentioned Redbreasts. Redbreast is part of Pernod Ricard portfolio. It's a single pot still Irish whiskey, in which means single pot is basically the equivalent of single malt in Scotland, meaning that it comes from one single distillery, gets aged in the distillery, and is basically just 100% comes from Redbreast distillery. This is triple distilled, classic Irish whiskey, lots of maple aftertaste, really soft, really easy drinking, 12 years old, and this comes at 40% ABV. I would say that this one and Green Spot is probably my best Irish whiskies and is absolutely stunning and delicious. That's the single bottle, and I think it's $120, $130, so it's still a little bit of high end, but it's definitely worth having. And if you've never had a really good Irish whiskey, this is a really, really good way to start. Now the next one is we're going to go all the way to Japan. We're not going to do the classic Yamazaki or Hakushu or even Nikka because they're actually quite pricey. So even the Yamazaki Distillery Reserve that doesn't have any age statement, it still goes for like almost $250. This one is the Shinobu 10-year-old. We have done a full review on this one. It's an actually incredible distillery. Even though the whiskey itself is not distilled in Japan, it's a blended whiskey from different distilleries around the world. It is blended and second maturation on Misonara casks. We have done the review on this one, and Misonara cask requires a lot of talent, and you really need to know what you're doing to be able to age a whiskey in Misonara cask properly. It's not like just putting the whiskey in there and just let it and then that's it. You have to know how to work with Misonara. Misonara is a really hard wood to work with. So these guys produce a really, really good whiskey, and I'm shocked about how good this is. And again, you can look at the video and you can see the full review. This is Shinobu 10-year-old, and this is probably the most expensive one of the whole list. This will probably go for just under $200. But it's worth it. If you want to give someone a special whiskey, this will be the one that you want to give someone. Now, after that, we're going to go to Australia whiskey. This one is a distillery called Helliers Road. Helliers Road started in 1999 by a group of farmers, and since then they have been producing really good whiskey. Now the interesting thing, and this is why we grabbed this one, is because compared to the Lark or Sullivan's Cove or Nanton, all those whiskies are selling over $200 a bottle. $200 plus. Now that's a little bit too expensive under my understanding for a gift. Even though they are great whiskies, it's just they're really expensive. This one in particular is a 10-year-old whiskey that goes for under $100. So 89. Some places sell it at $89, $99, and so on and so on. It's really cheap for an Australian whiskey, and this is actually delicious. Gets bottled at 46.2, and it's a very soft, easy drinking whiskey. There's not too much to it. It's 100% American oak. And you can see by the color as well, it's a really simple Australian whiskey. You can just drink it and you don't have to think too much about it, but it's good to support Australia and the whiskey industry nowadays. And then the final one is it's a vatted whiskey, basically Monkey Shoulder. This is the cheapest of the range. If you don't feel like spending more than $50 on a whiskey, this goes for like between $40 to $50 depending on where you buy it. Monkey Shoulder is made by William Grant. It's 3 different whiskies that go into this. It's Glenfiddich, Balvenie and Kinninvie. All those are single malts. There's no grain spirit into this, so this is a good replacement to Chivas Regal or Johnny Walker Black, because those whiskies are actually blended malts, blended whiskies, which means that it's just the add grain spirit to the backbone. This one is straight up single malts that get blended to put together, and it's a great whiskey for the price. It's actually delicious. It's one of my favorite whiskeys. It's like basically the equivalent of a table wine. It's a table whiskey that you just don't think too much. You can mix it as well with cocoa soda, or you can do cocktails, whiskey sours, and so on, and the whiskey will carry through, and it's actually really delicious. So that's it for our 6 whiskies for Father's Day or as a gift. I know that you guys, a lot of our viewers are from America, so even though Father's Day has already been, you can definitely give these whiskies as a gift. So also, if you have any recommendations of whiskies that you want to get reviewed, please make sure that you do a comment in the comments, and then we'll definitely do it. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.